Greetings all, and welcome back to our final interview for the Metal for Africa bands. Today we are joined by Matthew Cox from Thread of Omen. How are you today? Are you comfy?
How's it going? Yeah, I can't complain, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Most important question.
Sure.
Are you excited for
Yeah.
Metal for Africa?
Incredibly excited. It's going to be a special one for us, being our final show. It's always a pleasure playing the Metal for Africa stage. We were last there 2016, so that was quite some time ago. That was just before the release of our second album. And before that was the first big show for the band, so it's kind of special for us, getting to close the chapter at the same festival that kind of started it all for us. So yeah, can't wait.
Very nice. I mean, Thread of Omen has been around for just over 10 years now, starting in 2012. And the band has had quite the journey. The original members that started it all were quite fresh. Jean, Kalle, and Stein were involved in the original startup of the band. But the band has really become quite a mainstay in the scene. So, for everyone living under a rock, or that hasn't heard your music, how would you describe your music?
So I guess it has evolved over time, as what happens with a lot of bands. We started off as straight ahead melodic death metal. If you listen to the first album, it's all fast, proper mellow death, and then we get a little bit more progressive with the second one, and then we're a lot more groove based and prog based nowadays. So yeah, all with strong roots in death metal and classic death metal. But yeah, the subtleties have changed over the years.
Awesome. And how did everyone, the band members today, how did they all meet? How did everyone get involved in this?
Sure. Okay. So I got involved from late 2014, early 2015, sometime around there. So I joined when Jean had left. Jean was playing bass at the time. He was Kalle's brother. He was the rhythm guitarist. I'm not too sure, to be honest with you, on the beginning stages, on how Stian and Victor and Kalle and John, the brothers, got together, with Stein, of course, the original drummer. But I can certainly tell you everything that I know from then onwards. So I joined. I knew Victor just from like Facebook and chatting about like tattoo stuff. That was when he was quite fresh in the industry. Then I saw that his band was looking for a bass player, so went through, had an audition, and the rest is kind of history. As for Marius, he's been a long-time friend of the band, close friends with Victor and myself. He's been pretty heavily involved in the music scene, particularly in the punk rock scene, for quite some time. So we knew the guy. When I switched over from bass to guitar in 2018, we needed then a new bass player, so Victor suggested Marius, and yeah, it's been great ever since. Jono got involved when our original drummer Stein was working abroad in Saudi Arabia. He was flying back and forth quite regularly. We tried to keep the band going that way, where he would fly up and down for certain shows. We had one or two shows where Jono had to pull in. So Jono we knew from A Price in the King's Head. He was Stein's best friend. So also a very close friend of the band. Not really any like changes to get used to when it came to getting myself or Marius or Jono involved. These guys we already knew and we were comfortable with. So Jono filled in for a little while. We eventually lost Stein at some point. We tried with another guy. We played one show. After that he left, and then we got Jono back on board, and he's been with us ever since. So that was I think 2016 or so.
Yeah, and well, let's start off with Victor. Victor van der Heever. He is your vocalist. What do they bring to the band apart from their voice?
So Victor is a major contributor in a couple different capacities. Firstly, his art. So he's an exceptional tattoo artist with a very specific style that we love. So he's done our last two album covers for us, as well as some merchandise, sticker designs, all kind of design-related stuff he handles. And it's also really great having him as the vocalist and lyricist as well, because we can take a concept from a song and convert it into an art piece. and he's got the perfect brain to do it, having been the guy that wrote the lyrics, wrote the theme, had the emotions, and he can just convert that into a sick t-shirt or a piece of art for an album. So that's great. So he does the lyrics and all of the artwork stuff.
Awesome. If you could describe Victor in one word, how would you describe him?
That's a tough one. He's a character. He's love the man to bits. One of the funniest guys I've ever met. Kindest. I guess that's a good one to use. He's just kind. He's just always willing to help anyone with anything, and he's got the biggest heart.
You mentioned earlier you were on bass, and now you are currently on the rhythm guitar. But on lead guitar, we have Stein. How did? Sorry.
That's Stian.
Stian. Thank you.
Yeah.
What do they bring to the band apart from their guitar?
Okay, so Stian is, we like to call him the brainchild. Fred Omen is his brainchild. So he's the one that started the band. He got all the guys together, and he just pumps out great music. So the first 2 albums he wrote, well, actually the first 3 releases he wrote absolutely everything. He'll pump out a song in a day, start to finish, with tabs, some lyrical concepts as well on the first album. Victor took complete control of that from the second album onwards. So he's really the how do I put it, the core of the band, if I can say that. Being the main songwriter, bringing all the music together. Also has helped us out a little bit in some other capacities where he's got some strong skills. But as a songwriter, it's his baby, really.
Yeah. If he had to change his name, obviously I struggled with his name on that first take there. What do you think he would change his name to be if he had to change his name?
Sure. Wow, that's a tough one. I don't think we've even had a nickname for Stian, so I don't know what we would be able to jump to. Sure, I'll have to think about that one and get back to you on that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And we got our 2 guitarists out of the way, and then taking your role on bass, we have Marius, or aka Quecha, if I pronounce that correctly. What do they bring to the band apart from their bass?
So Marius brings the fun and the personality. Huge personality, super funny guy. Love the man to bits. So he got involved. It was 2018. His first show he played with us was the Viben battle, which I guess we can talk about that a little bit later. At the moment, he's just the guy. He brings the fierce, he brings the vibe, he brings the energy. He's also a venue owner as well. Him and his brother, they run and own the Armchair Theatre in the Observatory, which is becoming a bit of a hotspot for gigs now. They got shows happening 2, 3, 4 times a week. So that's a great help as well, of course, just staying connected with the scene whether we're on stage or off.
And if they could be... Sorry, I'm coming at you with these dumb questions. I'm kind of stumping you. But if they could be a fantasy character, what fantasy character would they be?
Wow. I would go for... I don't know, the first thing that came to mind was something from Star Wars. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, that's cool.
We'll go for... sure.
So, something from Star Wars.
We'll make Marius a Jar Jar Binks, not for just fun and always keen to get involved and just happy to be there and just epic personality.
Awesome. And finally,
no, go for it.
I was going to move on to Jonathan, but I assume you don't mean it in any the negative ways of Jar Jar, more the getting involved.
No, none of the clumsiness or anything like that. Just yeah,
Yeah.
just happy to be there. Lots of fun.
Yeah.
Always lots of love.
Yeah. And then finally we have Jonathan Berger on drums.
Yeah.
He's a very sought after drummer. We've already had a bit about him
Yes.
in our interview with Abaddon. And yeah, very talented drummer. What do they bring apart to the band? What do they bring to the band apart from their drums?
So Jono is also pretty much involved in the same capacity as myself and the rest of the guys. We don't get too involved with songwriting as mostly Stian's. Maybe recently we've been doing some more hands-on stuff. Jono is also helping out with some bookings, with a bit of the social media work as well. A lot of the design stuff as well. He's a designer by trade, so yeah, he also gets involved with that, but more of the like the posters and the graphic stuff, less of the illustrative stuff, which is what Victor does.
Yeah. And I mentioned he's a very talented drummer, but do you think he could drum blindfolded?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ah, no. So we'll get onto your shows in a bit, but let's just touch on your albums. You have 3 full-length albums that you've released. You have Palace of Fathers in 2015, Vindicta in 2017, and Confined Reality in 2019. What have people's reactions been to these albums?
So the first one, I got involved in the band just before the Palace of the Fathers album was released. So there we got a lot of international attention from that one. A lot of overseas articles and reviews popping up, landing up on playlists and radio stations and that kind of thing. Locally, it was a little bit underground. We didn't do an official launch party or album release show or anything like that. I mean, there was news in the press and on Metal for Africa and stuff like that. But yeah, that was the first one where we printed some physical copies and we were handing those out at shows. So we're kind of just getting everything started. It was a very DIY job from the distribution side of things. The production was incredible. We went to Heinrich from Burning Tone Studios, who we returned to for the third release, Confined Reality. He's just done a stunning job for us and so many other bands in Cape Town.
And you mentioned your physical copies. Are there going to be physical copies at Metal for Africa? Is this going to be the last chance for people?
Unfortunately not. So the last time we printed a physical CD was for Vindicta, and we hung on to a couple copies. I think we found another box of like 20 or so, and that was sometime in 2018 or 2019, and we just handed those out and threw them into the crowd. Yeah, as you know, nowadays the physical CDs don't sell too well.
Yeah.
It's more of a collector's item. Luckily in metal, especially in our subgenre, there are a lot of people that like to collect the CDs and the records and cassette tapes and stuff like that. So it's a really cool item to have, a little novelty. But as far as how it goes in terms of practicality, we just put a little bit more effort into the digital streaming. And,
that is very understandable. But do you have any T-shirts on sale?
We won't have any T-shirts either. No, unfortunately not.
Sorry, I don't have a T-shirt. I was like, this is my last chance to get it. I need one.
I mean, it's not to say that we might not make a couple at some stage later if there's demand for some physical copies of the stuff we haven't released physically or some new merchandise or something like that. Maybe we can look at that, but we haven't planned anything for the show.
Yeah. And for those who are wondering, we are doing this interview a bit before the actual time will be released on YouTube, but Metal for Africa is happening tomorrow. That is 29th of July, when this video is released. Better come through, better see Thread of Omen's final show. But before we go more into Metal for Africa, you mentioned your the Barken battle. And you guys have done some amazing shows. You've also toured. Well, let's start off with the Barken battle. Do you have any stories to tell from it? Any highlights?
That one, yeah. So that was quite a cool one. Definitely one of the highlights of the band's career. It was the first show we played with Marius, our new bass player. So a lot of pressure being on that stage. For the first time, we were also playing all the new music, so stuff we haven't even touched on stage before, and we've only been rehearsing for quite a short while. So yeah, nerves were high. Obviously, being in a competition setting as well was a bit stressful. But we played a killer show. Had some technical difficulties, but we managed to get through it. Had a lot of fun on that stage, and I think that was the last, if not the last time we played, second last time, excuse me, at Mercury Live for that shutdown. So we won that heat. We went up to play Rumors Rock City in Joburg. That was a lot of fun. That was also our first Joburg trip. A bit of a hectic one. We flew up in the morning, spent the day just wandering around, trying to keep ourselves busy until showtime. Played the gig, waited till the venue to close, and then straight back to the airport. No sleep. So, bit of a fun one. The party was good. It was great to finally meet a lot of the guys that we've been chatting to from around the country. You know, obviously, the battle finals. We've seen bands from all major cities and beyond. So yeah, it was a really great experience.
I did mention you guys went up overseas. How many times have you been overseas?
Yeah.
Was it just the once?
That was just the one trip, yeah.
Would you like to elaborate on it and tell us more?
Yeah, absolutely. So that one we went to play at Rockstadt Extreme Fest, which is held on the grounds of Transylvania in Romania. That was an incredible experience, the experience of a lifetime. For some of us, it was the first time getting on a plane overseas. For all of us, it was the first time in the country. And for most of us, it was the first time seeing a festival on that scale in Europe as well, where metal is seen very differently to the way it is around the rest of the world, of course. The way they treat it almost like a religion. It's inspiring and it's incredible. It's just the greatest vibe, the best people, amazing food, amazing drinks. Yeah, I really can't even begin to explain how great that was. Just standing there in the middle of the Transylvanian forest, you've got the castles on the hills around you, and you've got metal blasting from all directions. It was insane.
That sounds magical. Is there any other highlights in the career of Threat of Omen that stand out? I think those two are the two biggest, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the two trips the way we've traveled, those have been a lot of fun. The Romanian tour, we can talk about that for hours. We can talk about Joburg for hours. We played a lot of other great shows. Obviously, the two Metal for Africa festivals we played. The first one was a summer fest, and then it was a winter fest. The second one in 2016. We've had the pleasure as well of playing for a bunch of international bands. We were the local support for Aborted when they came down. That was 2015, I believe, maybe 2016. We opened up for Monuments as well quite recently. I think that was 2018 and 2019. Novo Chaos as well from Brazil. They came down. We played with them. We've also played with a bunch of guys from up country. Guys coming from Joburg, Durban, PE, etc. Just local support acts. So those are a lot of fun shows. We always love those. We get to play for people that wouldn't normally come to the shows. Obviously network and just meet some of the guys that we love seeing. Definitely a highlight would have been the last Ramfest, which was the day or two before the world went in another direction. So that was a lot of fun there. We did that at the Hillcrest Quarry. We played the Metal for Africa stage as well, of course. And then getting to support the Black Dahlia Murder and meet those guys, which are huge inspirations for us. That was incredible.
So again, Metal for Africa happening tomorrow. You better get your tickets. Come see Threat of Omen's final show. All details for ticket sales, links to Threat of Omen's music. You would have heard one of their songs in the intro. Go check them out. Apart from playing, what else are you looking forward to the most at Metal for Africa?
Just seeing all the people, man. The Metal for Africa is one of those festivals where obviously we go there for the music, but a huge part of it is just getting to see all the faces that we don't see too regularly, especially with not too many gigs happening as regularly as they used to be happening, with only a handful of venues operating around Cape Town. Metal for Africa is one of those events where you really just get to see all the people you haven't seen in a while, catch up with all the alternative guys, all the band guys, and just enjoy some good fucking music.
Before we sign off, anything you want to tell our viewers?
I'd just like to say thank you all for the past 10, 11, 12 years of support for the band. We look forward to seeing you at Metal for Africa, and we promise to make it an epic night.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matthew, for joining me today. come check out Thread of Omen tomorrow at Metal for Africa. It will be their last show. This will be your last chance to come see them live. And they also are going to be the closing band, meaning if they want and if there's enough support, I'm sure we can get them to go on a bit longer than they're supposed to. So yeah, I'll see you all tomorrow at Metal for Africa. Cheers.
Lovely stuff. See you and everybody else tomorrow. I can play.
Awesome.